Does the US follow Germany's example in energy policy? This is Ronald Stein. It's a LinkedIn page of Ronald Stein, and this is the LinkedIn of Ronald Stein. Ronald Stein is a columnist, author, and energy advisor. He's the founder of the company called PTS. Welcome to the podcast, Ronald Stein.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Thank you. And this is me, my LinkedIn page. Ronald, from this chart, we can see that electricity prices are falling in February 2024 in Europe. We can see Italy reduced 11%, Germany 19, almost 20%. France. My point for you, is it a trend reducing a price of energy, electricity in Europe?
I don't think so. The problem with, everything started with Germany and their program, and it all started with a misunderstanding and misuse of the word energy, because Germany was under the impression that wind and solar energy was going to replace fossil fuels. But as they've learned, as we've been talking about for years, wind and solar only generates electricity and makes nothing for society. So it can't replace fossil fuels because it does something totally different than fossil fuels, especially oil, because oil is virtually never used to generate electricity. It's only used to make products. And so they've been going down the path, and a lot of countries have been following them, including the United States, thinking that wind and solar energy is going to replace fossil fuels. Well, it's not, because the wind and solar electricity is intermittent. They get free breezes, they get free sunshine, they get huge government subsidies, and electricity prices are going up because it's a redundant electrical generation system, because you need, as a backup, your reliable power, because, data centers, hospitals, airports, computers, everything, it needs continuous electricity. And wind and solar can't do that. They just do it sporadically. And if there's no wind, no sunshine, they produce nothing. And so, like I say, you're basically paying for two systems. And the thing that makes it really tough, because they wanted to get rid of fossil fuels, they shut down coal plants, they shut down natural gas power plants, and ironically, they want zero emissions electricity. They've also shut down nuclear, which is a zero emission electricity generating system. But the backup for wind and solar is shrinking. And, the equation of supply and demand, if there's big demand for electricity and you keep reducing the supply of electricity, prices go up.
Yeah.
And so they've got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you mentioned that what just started with Germany, but Germany had two main events: Nord Stream explosion and closing three last nuclear plants. So
Right?
these two factors were tremendously negative to Europe, no?
Exactly. And I mean, everything just kind of snowballs together. And, it's the best of all worlds. It's all happening at the same time.
Yeah,
and,
all happened at the same
and
time.
you don't want it to happen at the same time. But
That
yeah, that's I think where, United States were following the original German plan to get rid of coal and natural gas. I'm not sure why they got rid of nuclear, because most of the world is going to nuclear, for reliable, continuous electricity. And yeah, like I say, it's the type of thing that you need continuous electricity, and intermittent electricity doesn't work. So,
Yeah. Ronald, there is another chart that's impressive charts about electricity production by source in Germany, and the total production is falling down. So, what's the
well,
reason?
let me focus on the very bottom right-hand corner,
Uh-huh.
The coal graph is going up, the oil graph is going up,
Yeah.
and natural gas is going up because they're realizing they made a mistake. and, and they're reactivating coal power plants. And like I said, that's reliable electricity because, electricity is fine, but if you want to run an airport or a hospital or a data center or a computer or any communication systems, you need continuous electricity.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at the power plants, coal, natural gas, nuclear, they have a rated capacity. And annually, I want to use that word annually, they'll generate about 95% of that capacity. There'll be some downtime for repairs, that type of thing. But you can pretty much rely on that rated capacity being went out there. But you get wind and solar, they got a nameplate capacity. Well, wind and solar don't work most of the time. And so that nameplate rating, of which they get subsidized on, it should be an annual rating. Forget about, 1,000 megawatts. What are you going to deliver annually? And that's the problem with that kind of electricity. It's not there when you want it.
Ronald, you see that the U.S. is following the German green movement, but because the U.S. mindset is different from European mindset. You do not have Greta's, Guterres, Fatih Birol's. You are very pragmatic people.
But we listen to them.
Good one.
And if we didn't listen to them, then Greta would be all over us. So, no, we're definitely following 100% in German's footsteps. And,
Wow.
Like I say, Germany, we've done exactly what Germany's done. They've shut down coal, they shut down natural gas, they've shut down nuclear. Here in the United States, we're doing the same thing. I'm in California. We've shut down one nuclear plant. The second one is destined to be shut down, but we had to keep the lights on, so it was given a life extension. And so who knows if it's going to stay on board or not, but it's destined for closure. And I think in the last 10 years, we've shut down like 11 coal power plants in California. In fact, we shut down so much generating capacity. California imports more electricity than any other state in the United States because we can't generate our own. But we have all this wind and solar, but that's not keeping the lights on.
Ronald, we have a chart showing exactly what you mentioned before in this podcast. You say in your article, renewables need reliable, continuous, and uninterruptible electricity from hydro, nuclear, coal, and natural gas. And this chart shows exactly what you mean. See the green and brown place here in this chart that are, what are them? Let's see. I cannot read here.
Yeah, the yellow is the photo.
Yes, yellow is photovoltaic.
Yeah.
And let's see, wind. Wind is blue, light blue. Yeah. So, but the intermittence is very high with this renewables. Very, very high.
Yeah, and if you're running a military and any kind of communication system, or if you're running an operating room, you need continuous electricity. You know how computers react when they have intermittent electricity. They shut down, they reboot, everything goes. And you can't lose your supply of electricity. And that's the difference between wind and solar and the 6 ways we have of generating electricity. We got hydro and nuclear and natural gas and coal. Those 4 are continuous electricity. Then the other 2 is wind and solar, which is intermittent electricity. And, you can't run a city on occasional electricity. Now we're in California, a temperate climate. Now we're close to the ocean, so we might be able to get some, electricity from there. But, most of the United States is inland, and their weather is not as temperate as ours, and they get tornadoes and snow and rain, and like I say, there's just not enough continuous electricity to run society. And then the other thing we've talked about, electricity doesn't make any products. They want to get rid of oil. That was the main reason of going to renewable energy. But if you are successful and shut down all your oil supplies, you've lost a source of products to generate electricity, because all the components for generating electricity, be it from the insulation, computers, the cable, all the electronics, all the gear behind that door, it's all made from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Because remember, electricity came after oil. Yeah. And without oil, you have no electricity.
Yeah, that's right. Ronald, there is a point that's the compensation for the intermittency by batteries. And let me show you, because I like your speech, because you are very clear and you accept very well both sides of the but this is a very important chart. Is both charts show that the price of battery are falling very fast, very, very fast. And this makes more viable the compensation of intermittency or not. What's your opinion?
Well, again, it's all controlled by China. And so when you say prices declining, they have total control. They can do whatever they want and bring the price down, raise the prices up. The challenge we have, Armando, is there's not enough lithium in the world to build as many batteries as we want. I mean, I've been called a hypocrite because I have a cell phone. Well, it's got a lithium battery. Well, a Tesla battery, the amount of lithium in a Tesla battery will make 4,000 cell phones. The amount of lithium in a truck 18-wheeler battery, which weighs 16,000 pounds, or the amount of lithium in that battery will make 64,000 cell phones. And it just goes on from there. And, we're extracting resources from planet Earth. Planet Earth has been around 4 billion years. We got a lot of, oil, natural gas, and coal, lithium, cobalt. Well, these things are not, you can't recycle them, and you can't replenish them. So we're extracting all these resources out of the earth. And unbeknownst to society, the well's going to run dry. I've got an article coming out really on fossil fuels that within 100 years, there will be no fossil fuels. We'll have extracted all the reserves, the proven reserves, even the unproven reserves are estimated. But yeah, within 100 years, there'll be no fossil fuels to run the society. Ironically, there's less years left for lithium and cobalt. And there's only a couple of countries that have it. And it's all controlled by China. So we're enjoying the good life, but the clock is ticking and the candle is burning.
Yeah. Ronald, 23 states, this is in your article, is adopting goals to move 100% clean electricity by 2050. And the other 27 are still thinking, well, what's going on?
Well, they haven't totally committed, but like I say, everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid, thinking electricity. Again, it all goes back to the use of the word energy. And I find it appalling that they talk about wind and solar energy. Armando, it's only wind and solar electricity, because electricity can't do anything. In fact, we talked about it before, everything that needs electricity is made with fossil fuels. I mean, if you have an iPhone, the wind turbine can't make your iPhone. The solar panel can't make your iPhone. They can make the iPhone work. They can charge it. But it's, like I say, I'm just amazed that like I say, California was one of the first, but there's 23 states that are following Germany.
That's my point for you. Let's go deep. Let me be provocative for you. These
Okay,
23, these 23 states, there are no people thinking consistently in these matters.
short answer, no. Well, the thing is, no one wants to have a conversation.
It's 23 states,
Yeah,
Ronald.
because they want to go 100% electricity. Well, if you have nothing to electrify, if you have no iPhones and
Equipment,
computers,
materials.
what do you need wind and solar for? It's, no,
That's
it's just amazing
crazy.
that the lack of conversations. Because,
Impressive.
I mentioned before, I would love to talk to President Joe Biden. You want to get rid of, fossil fuels. Do you really want to close all the airports and close all the hospitals? I mean, airports and hospitals didn't exist 200 years ago, before we had the products. And now everybody's thinking that, clean energy, wind and solar, is going to replace fossil fuels. It can't. They do something totally different. I mean, if you take natural gas, it makes fertilizers and pesticides. Wind turbines can't do that. And we,
But
with the pesticides and fertilizers, we've been able to, basically help feed the world by having, much more productive, growing facilities.
yeah, but Ronald, 23 states, each state probably has one university or two or 10 university, I don't know. But competent people, and the governors are not talking to these people. It's impossible to be alone in these decisions.
They are.
Again,
Cut this conversation short. It's just amazing that
impressive.
to me it's so obvious, and to you it's obvious, but no one wants to talk about it.
It's very
I mean,
impressive.
if they're successful in achieving 100% renewable electricity, and they talk about renewable energy, but we know it's only renewable electricity at best. And, can you run a hospital that way? The Air Force, the military, I mean, we got, we're trying to conquer space. All the computers, electronics, I mean, it needs reliable electricity. And wind and solar is not going to, help our space shuttle up there.
In your article, you mentioned something very curious. You said that frequent mechanical failures and from weather conditions. My point for you, fossil fuel engines, combustion engines, have parts that are mechanical failure potential too. So,
Oh,
what's the
yes.
difference? What's the difference between these two things?
Well, when you have like a coal-fired power plant or natural gas power plant, they're going to be, down for certain periods of time for maintenance and repairs and that type of thing. But when you take a look at the annual generating capability, they're generating electricity like 95% of the time. Whereas wind and solar, they don't have control to generate electricity. They're relying on wind and solar. Hopefully the sun's shining and the wind's blowing. And if not, they can't generate electricity. Then they have the other problem about maintenance, that type of thing. But it's they have no control over what they generate.
I got.
And our society is based on reliable and basically controllable electricity.
Mhm.
If I can use a word, they have uncontrollable electricity.
Uncontrollable. Yeah. It's interesting because Germany was the first country to go green. Finland, France, China, Japan, and others are not following the lead of Germany, but the US is following.
Totally. It's just amazing. And I just shake my head. I mean, I see these, the economies in the states going south. The tough part is there's a lot of people, certain things that happen comes at the same time. Credit cards weren't around, 30, 40 years ago. But now that they are, people are running up debt. And if they can't afford something, well, they just put it on their credit card and they pay 30% interest the rest of their life. And they're getting further and further in the hole. And the people that can't afford this extra cost for electricity, and because they're clamping down on the supply of crude oil, the crude oil things are getting more expensive too, supply and demand, because, the demand has not gone away. People still want their, washing machines and dryers and, all the things in their house and their lifestyle. And the demand keeps going up. But the supply is reduced. So even the price of oil products is going up. And for the people that are marginally, surviving financially, it's tough on them. If you're financially stable and, you can pay off your credit cards, you're fine. But, I see it here in California because we're a very expensive state to begin with. And we're causing electricity to go up, we're causing fuel to go up, and that hurts the people the most on the bottom end of the road.
This is a very good point. You mentioned in your article that the average debt in the US is greater than $100,000 per person.
Yeah,
But
we're talking about.
It's a consequence of energy prices?
No. It's basically home loans, car loans, credit cards.
Wow.
People are just accumulating debt, and now kids can barely add one and one together are getting credit cards, and it seems like everybody has a credit card debt, and if you don't pay it off, you're getting behind the eight ball, and then you get to the point that more and more people cannot function financially, and they can't live. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And when you got this huge debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're one paycheck away from possibly joining the homeless.
Yeah.
And, here in California, we have, I guess, one of the largest homeless populations, and all the politicians are trying to solve the homeless problem. Armando, I think the other problem is they're failing to ask the question, how large is the homeless population going to grow to? Because you have millions of candidates that are potentially joining the homeless group. Like I say, if they lose their job, it takes weeks to get another job, which they go further in debt. And yeah, it's a situation that I think the homeless population is nowhere else to grow.
Yeah, and people will not pay this debt.
No.
It's impossible.
Being here in California, you see people that go to Disneyland, or to go to Disneyland with, husband, wife, and the kids. I mean, it could be $1,000 or more. And you can look at the people, the way they dress, and say, well, they can't afford to go to Disneyland. But Armando, I just put on a credit card.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we go to a lot of theaters, so we'll rack up a big monthly bill, which we pay off. But when I see the monthly bill, I said, minimum payment, $60. Oh my God, I'll be paying $60 for the next 400 years.
Oh my God. Ronald, let me put another point here. 7 countries now generate 100% of their electricity from renewable energy. 2 are in Europe. What do you see with this statement?
Well, people are following, the German plan for, renewable energy, and it's taken years to get this ball rolling, but they have funded and subsidized wind and solar, and it takes years to engineer it and get the materials and do the construction. So by the time you start, by the time you finish and have the installations complete, it could be, like 5-10 years. And so we're seeing a lot of, wind and solar being proposed, but they've been funded in advance, they've been designed, and they've been procured, to make all the components and the wind blades. That's a long process from start to completion. And so we're seeing a lot of the countries that have started this process, like 5 or 10 years ago, now the momentum is going that they've they're proud. They've got their wind installation, they've got their solar installation, and now they're going to start to realize that it's not providing the electricity they need when they need it.
Let me go from my side, the last point for you, and it's an opinion. I have an opinion that let's see if you is in favor or against. Solar energy on the roofs of houses. I do not see any problem for that because maybe something that's useful. You can protect the house. You can reduce the insulation internally in the house, and as a contingency energy, electricity is not a problem. What do you see this?
I agree. I mean, wind and solar are basically niche services. It's not good for everybody, but yeah, if you've got a house, you got a roof, you take advantage of it, and you can kind of work around it because you don't need that much reliable electricity. So, when you have the sun shining, your washing machine's running, your dishwasher's running, you basically have, free electricity. I would just correct you on one thing. You talked about wind and solar energy. No, wind and solar electricity. It's only electricity. But
solar and electricity,
And the same thing with EVs. I mean, there's certain people that I think it fits their lifestyle, that they have, short runs, and that, the mailman, UPS delivery, FedEx, they basically they do their run, and they don't do a lot of miles. They have a lot of stops, and they go back to home base. So there's a lot of services that can be met with, so-called renewable electricity, but to impose
not for everything. Not
Exactly.
for everything. That's the point.
Exactly. And that's the thing that is part of the discussion. There's no silver bullet answers. And, for people that have a house, you got a free roof and you can, collect the, you're not going to put a wind turbine at your house, but you can have solar panels.
Solar
But-
panels, of course.
Yeah. And, but if you're in the Midwest, with all the snow, maybe you want to reconsider it. But it is a niche market. But the problem with the German plan and all the states that are buying into it, they're imposing this on everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And instead of letting the market determine its direction, they're imposing it on everybody.
They are being radical, and it's not the solution. Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Fantastic, this conversation today, Ronald Stein. Thank you so much.
Okay,
You are my guru.
Get Joe Biden to join us on like a three-way conversation.
I will call him. I will call Joe Biden.
Okay, give Joe a call.
Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.